So, let's say this is a record label. So this little building, right? So let's call this record label Ultra Records. And Ultra Records signs a recording contract with an artist. And they're going to now own the copyright in all of the recordings that this artist creates. So Ultra owns these recordings. Then Ultra is going to do two things because they want to promote this recording and make money from this recording. Is that they're going to distribute this recording out into the music industry to DSPs, which are digital service providers, such as Beatport, but also Spotify, Apple, Deezer, Tidal, the list goes on, iTunes, right? And they want to use these DSPs to get this music out into the masses and then earn income, right? By people paying or streaming. So money flows back through the DSPs to the record label. That's the whole purpose. Now, they also want to limit copyright infringement. Copyright infringement means someone is using their copyright without permission. And in doing so, they will not receive money. So what they also do is they deliver this file to copyright policing services. That's just the best way of calling it. There's a technical name for it. And these services take the audio file and they put it into their own database. And they take this original audio file, they put it in their database with a set of business rules. These business rules come from the label. The business rule could be, if this audio file appears somewhere in the world where we have not given it permission, then I want you to take it down. That's one rule. Or I want you to mute it. So for example, if the audio file appeared on a YouTube video and then the audio file gets muted, or I want you to monetize it, meaning monetize the content in which my audio file appears, right? So the label sends to the copyright policing service or the audio file plus a business rule so that every time the service finds this audio file out in the world, it's going to act on these business rules. So then now we have a database of the audio file. And what they then do is from this is they create what's called a fingerprint. It's kind of my idea of a fingerprint. They create a database of fingerprints. A fingerprint is a algorithm. It's an algorithm that is looking at the audio file itself and measuring the space between the peaks and valleys and the frequency. It's measuring the pitch. It's looking at tempo. It's not looking at things such as the title of the track, which is metadata. It's not looking at the artist's name. It's looking at the actual audio file itself. The distance between the waves in the audio file for pitch. So here we go. So let's say an audio file came out and it looks like this. Right, you see that sometimes in waveform videos. So you have this audio file that looks like that, and you have all these characteristics. The distance between the peak and the valley, of the peak and the base. You have the distance between these waves. So you have pitch, you have frequency, you have all this stuff. That information about this audio file gets summarized into an algorithm, a unique code, and then it's set in the database. So every recording, this recording has its own unique algorithm or fingerprint. We call it audio fingerprint or acoustic ID, all these different names we call it. So now this company has a unique fingerprint for this recording. What they then do is they sell the service to other companies, or businesses in the industry. So for example, Soundcloud. So this is Soundcloud. And let's say every time the public, so here's you, the public, you have a SoundCloud account and you upload something into SoundCloud, right? You upload your own audio file. The terms of service for SoundCloud says that you can only upload content that you own as the copyright owner, or you have permission from the copyright owner, permission from Ultra Records to upload this, in which case Ultra Records will send a notice to SoundCloud directly or through their partners to white label your account so that you have permission to upload whatever file it is. So technically speaking, you're supposed to upload something that you own. When you upload it into SoundCloud, it says it's processing. When it says it's processing, what it's doing is it's sending your file to this processing area where it is creating in real time a new algorithm, and it's going to check the database of all the audio fingerprints. So it's going to create a new fingerprint. It's going to check the fingerprint. If it finds a match, here's a match. The new fingerprint that was created matches an existing fingerprint. It's going to then go back and look at the business rules. What is the business rule with this match? So if it's takedown, it's going to then trigger a takedown. It's going to take this down because that's what the rule says. If it says to monetize, then it will allow you to post it. What this is YouTube. Imagine this is YouTube. On YouTube, if it says to monetize, then you'll see your video, but you'll see ads over your video, because the copyright owner is going to receive from this ad. The copyright owner is going to receive the money for that because of the business rule, right? But SoundCloud doesn't have this ability to monetize that way. They have SoundCloud has their own external licenses with record labels and publishers for some of its service types, but not all of its service types. So when you upload your own recording to SoundCloud, they don't have the license for you to upload content from Ultra Records. And that's what's happening when you upload a track. Now, let me say something. When you have, let's say you uploaded this exact track. You bought this track from iTunes or Beatport, right? You bought it from from the distributed. You bought it, then you upload it to SoundCloud. Well, then it's going to go through this process. It's going to be an easy match here. Very easy, because this exact same recording is going to have the exact same algorithm, exact same pitch and frequencies and so forth. So it's easy to find. But let's say if you had you had a sample in there. So you have a recording and you have another recording. So let's say you have two kind of things going on in here. Well, you're going to have some of this is going to be fuzzy. It's not going to be the exact match, but it's going to be close enough because you're going to have two different algorithms going on, right? So let's say this one looked that way and this one looked this way. You're going to have kind of a close enough match to find that, where they may be able to find it in this processing, because there's two fingerprints here, because this record label has their file in the database, but then also record label number two also has their file in the database, right? Their file is in here, and they have their own fingerprint. If you have one record with one sample, or two record, a mashup, it's probably, you can potentially find it. But if you're a DJ and you're uploading one audio file, and that one audio file, let me just put it over here, has all these different, I'm gonna make like a pie, has 2 hours of tracks, 2 hours of samples in it. They're not going to find, when it gets submitted into this database to create the audio fingerprint, there's not going to be a match because this fingerprint is for each individual sample in there, not for the total of all those samples mashed up together. So a DJ mix is still illegal. It is still copyright infringement in the sense that they don't have a permission for each of these recordings from each of these labels. But imagine if there were 60 labels here representing the 60 recordings inside of that mix. You cannot find a match for that mix. We call it a mix, but at the end of the day, it's still a recording. It's one audio file that's uploaded. Just like one audio file here is 3.5 minutes. Even if it's 2 hours, it's still one audio file. So that one audio file has to create some kind of an algorithm, and that algorithm has to match what's in the system. If it's not in the system, then it flies under the radar. It doesn't mean it's not copyright infringement just because it's no longer under. So that being said, every user-generated content platform like SoundCloud and Instagram and TikTok and Twitter, anywhere where you can upload content, the consumer can upload content to the system, whether it's video or audio, you're telling the platform in their terms of service that you are the copyright owner and therefore have permission to grant to the service the ability to distribute and publicly perform the content you just uploaded, which is required for copyright, or you have permission from the actual copyright owner to do the same. If you don't have permission, it's copyright infringement. They have copyright recognition technology in place to try to find some of that infringement, but not all, right? It's anywhere from maybe 60 to 70%. I don't know, it varies, but they're not gonna catch every single instance of every upload of every user all day long. They're gonna catch some of it. And it's easier to catch when it's a direct match to the algorithm in the database. It's harder to catch when you change the tempo of something, or when people try to slow down or speed up a track, especially on YouTube where you have these backing audio files. So that's a quick overview of this whole process. Is called Content ID on YouTube. It's automated. It's also called automated copyright recognition. This is all a part of policing copyright in the digital space. But at the end of the day, you have the copyright owner and you have some content, and then you have consumers in the middle creating their own content based off of this content. And when you do that, that's called a derivative work. A derivative work. So remixes, edits, bootlegs, all that is called a derivative work. And DJs are in the business of creating derivative works. That's what a mix is. A 2-hour mix is a derivative work utilizing multiple samples from multiple copyright owners without permission from the record label or the underlying music publisher. And some services have licenses in place, such as Mixcloud. Mixcloud has licenses in place so that when you do put your music on Mixcloud, it's properly licensed. And SoundCloud also, I want to say, SoundCloud also has licenses in place, but for some of their service offerings, not licenses for consumers to upload whatever they want to your own SoundCloud page. They have for SoundCloud, they have their licenses in place for labels and publishers for some services. I also want to mention that Twitch, which is obviously a video live streaming platform, Twitch, where DJs want to stream live, Twitch does not have licenses in place with the publishers and labels. They have some deals, or they do one-off deals with certain accounts, but from a platform standpoint, they don't have the licenses in place. So again, if you're a DJ doing live streaming on Twitch, you're not properly licensed. If you're a DJ uploading a 2-hour mix on SoundCloud, you're not properly licensed. If you're doing Mixcloud, you are properly licensed. If you're loading it up onto YouTube, you're not properly licensed. However, YouTube has a whole infrastructure in place to compensate labels and publishers when they do identify copyright infringement. So just because it still stays on YouTube doesn't mean it's cleared. It just means that they have a process in place called Content ID. So that's my quick crash course.